Hey everybody, I'm Joe. We're talking about Marvel Multiverse and we're doing another character build. Here we go. As somebody who runs more games than I get to play in, like many game masters out there, I get to spend a lot of time thinking about what kind of a character I would want to play in-game. That's not to say what do I think is the most powerful character, the one that wins combat the most easily, the one that does the most damage, but what do I just think is fun? What would I want to explore? And for me, that is the teleportation power set. I love teleportation in any game system, but especially in Marvel Multiverse. It gives you so much mobility in combat and so much ability to solve problems outside of combat. There's no character who doesn't want teleportation. We just have many characters that can't prioritize it. And teleportation in this game is pretty incredible because the teleportation powers, many of them do not require focus, though certainly some of them do. And the other thing that's great about teleportation in this game is you can use teleportation as your movement instead of your action with many of the powers. And that just opens up so much potential for your action economy. But teleportation, of course, is mostly just a mobility and utility power. It's not offensive, right? You can't use teleportation offensively, or can you? That is what we are going to try to do today. We are going to try to build a character that has teleportation abilities so that they are constantly useful in all scenarios, but then attempts to use teleportation offensively. I think this is going to be, honestly, quite a bit of fun. I am not that good at naming my characters, so if you have a name for this character, I would love to hear it, but I'll be calling today's character Yeet. Let's start off with occupation, and the occupation and origin for this character aren't really essential to the build, so pick whatever you think is going to be best for your concept, but I'm going to go with adventurer. Adventurer means that we do this for a living, maybe as a service to mankind, maybe we get paid, maybe we're part of a group, but we are an adventurer at our core, and this is the thing that we do with our lives. And this does give us not only the cool flavor, but also two traits, fearless and connections for superheroes. Fearless is mostly a ribbon feature. Fearless means that we have an edge on any role having to do with fear. And I say that this is a ribbon feature because there really aren't any powers yet in the game that specifically are fear mechanics. But that does not mean that there isn't something your narrator might homebrew in your game. So it might come up. Connections, as always, is one of my favorite traits in the game. It means that you have NPCs that you can connect with, and in this case, it's other superheroes. You can always find out what's going on in the world of heroics in your game when you have this trait. I struggled with origin. Nothing was really standing out to me as interesting or necessary for the build, so I'm going to go with unknown. Literally, nobody seems to know how you came across your teleportation abilities, and I think finding that out might be a great story in your game. So we're going to go with unknown, but that is mostly just a placeholder in case you have something you like better, or just a good way of building a story around your character. Let's go ahead and do point buy. I have to take a -3 in something. That something can be agility, ego, or logic. I usually am reticent to take a negative modifier in logic because I think that for a lot of players, this affects the way that they actually RP their character, and I don't love that idea. I want you to feel that you have free reign to be thoughtful and creative at the table. Some people RP that totally differently or are fine. Taking a negative in ego is always tricky in this game because ego is the more dominant mental attack that you see in the game. If it's not a physical attack, it's ego-based. So dumping ego does require that we take like the integrity power, which I'm not going to do on this character. So we're going to dump agility. This means we're going to get 4 in melee, a -3 in agility, 2 in resilience, 2 in vigilance, and 0 in ego and logic. This is not a mental stat character. We're never really going to be bumping these to extreme levels. But we are going to have defenses with powers of 14 for melee and agility, 12 for resilience and vigilance, and 10 for ego and logic. We will be going into the teleportation power set at this rank, and that means we're going to pick up the root of the teleportation power set, which is Blink. Blink allows you to use your action or your reaction, which is really the hidden strength of Blink, to teleport a number of spaces that is equal to your rank. Right now that's 1 space, so 5 feet. The purpose of this is not to have any huge amount of mobility, though you can teleport to the other side of a door. Really what Blink is for is if you are targeted with an attack, you can blink out of the way and theoretically allow that attack to miss you, which is pretty great. So we love Blink. It's going to save our lives from time to time, but mostly it is here because it is the root of everything else in teleportation. Next, we're going to take Mighty 1, which is going to give us a +1 to our damage multiplier for any attacks using melee. But more importantly for us, it is also a +1 to any non-attack roll. See my video on what constitutes an attack roll, because that's going to be important in this build. Next, we're going to take Brawling. Brawling allows us to use our melee defense for agility attacks, which is why our agility defense is not true garbage at this rank. We kind of need this, because this character needs to get physically close to enemies to attack them, and as a result is going to get targeted a lot, so we need to bump up those physical defenses early on. Speaking of which, we're going to also take Sturdy 1. Sturdy 1 is going to give us 1 damage reduction. I've started a new campaign relatively recently, and I just cannot tell you how incredibly powerful it is to take Sturdy early in a character's career rather than later. My characters who have taken Sturdy right away at rank 1 are really bulldozing through a lot of combat encounters and doing an amazing job. So taking this early actually is pretty incredible on your character. The trait we're going to take is its combat reflexes. Of course it is. I need it on all damage dealing characters. Right now, this is not a damage dealing thing. Combat reflexes gives you an additional reaction every round of combat. For us, that's going to be used for Blink. So now when we are targeted twice in a round of combat, we can blink out of the way. This is going to save you from being hit twice. And then if you do get hit, well, you have Sturdy 1. So this character is quite robust right away at rank 1. So let's look at combat. Right now we cannot use teleportation offensively, which is the goal of this character that's going to come online very soon. Right now you're just hitting somebody. That's about it. And so you're going to do 12 points of damage in an average round of combat. It's perfectly okay, but it's going to get a lot better. Let's go ahead and do point buy for rank 2. We're going to bring melee to a 5, resilience and vigilance to 4s, and we're not going to touch ego and logic. This is going to give us defenses of 15 for melee and agility, 14 for resilience and vigilance, and 10 for ego and logic. We need 1 more power set to make this build work, and it's martial arts. As I've argued recently with my artist build, the martial arts power set is just the best power set to dip into. It's incredible, and we need a couple things in here. Most importantly though is grappling technique. Grappling technique is a melee attack roll that upon a success not only does damage but grapples, or grabs in this game, the target. So now we have a way of not only doing damage but grabbing somebody. Remember, you can always do a melee check to grab somebody, but unless you have grappling technique, this does not do damage. So now we are able to do that with our action. Next, we're going to take Flight 1. I haven't taken Flight on a character in a while, and honestly, it's because of the nature of building characters in a vacuum. Flight is good on every character. It's good on everybody, and I don't take it on a lot of builds because I'm building for a particular theme or concept, and if it doesn't directly fit that theme or concept, I tend to leave it out. But Flight is an amazing power, and you can take it right away at rank 2, and most players in games that I've ran have eventually taken at least Flight 1. Flight 1 gives you a flying speed that is equal to your running speed times 3. And so for us, that is 75 feet, which is pretty great. Outside of combat, you can move 3 times faster than that in combat flight speed. So you're pretty fast zipping around outside of combat, and you've got better mobility flying than you do running in combat. Next, we're going to take Teleport 1. Teleport 1 says that inside of combat, we can use our action or our movement to teleport a number of spaces away that is equal to our rank times 10. And that's right now 20 spaces, which is 100 feet. That's not bad. Outside of combat, by the way, we can teleport 100 times our rank in spaces away. So there's loads of utility that this gives you. For us, we really care about how far we can teleport to a place we have seen or have been to that is in combat. That's going to be crucial for us. But the real thing that we care about is teleport together. This is the root of the build, and we're able to get it online right now at rank 2. So let's take a look at this. Teleport together can be used as an action, your movement, or your reaction, so it's incredibly fluid. It does cost 10 points of focus. We teleport with one person that we are touching up to a space that we can see or have been to, so it's the same as Teleport 1, that is up to 10 times our rank in spaces away. Outside of combat, it's 100 times our rank in spaces away. Crucially for us, what if the person doesn't want to teleport with us? Well, in that case, we have to have them grabbed first. Now, one important thing about teleport together is that you have to be rank 3 to take it, and we are not, but we meet all of the other requirements. So our trait for the rank really has to be surprising power so that we can take teleport together. Remember, surprising power allows you to bypass the rank requirement of any power so long as you meet all other prerequisites, which we do, so we can take teleport together right now. So let's take a look at how this character acts in combat. At the moment, we use our movement to teleport or fly up to an enemy. We are then going to do a grappling technique dealing damage to them. We will use our reaction to teleport as high up in the sky as we can get and drop them and allow fall damage to do more damage to them. We're able to fly, which means we will not be flying. And then we can just shampoo, rinse, repeat for every round of combat thereafter. Of course, this means we need to understand fall damage. Fall damage is, I'll be honest with you, a little bit disappointing in Marvel Multiverse. It's not as much damage as I think it should be, but let's take a look at how it actually works, rules as written. Here is fall damage. You take the number of spaces that somebody falls and divide by 3. It doesn't say, but I assume we round down. That number is your damage multiplier, and it caps at a 20. So it doesn't matter how high up you have somebody drop, it caps at a 20 damage multiplier, which of course happens when you're able to get somebody to fall 60 spaces. Either you as the character or probably the narrator rolls the Marvel die, and that is multiplied against the damage multiplier, and that is the fall damage the enemy takes. At this moment, we are grappling technique, teleporting together and dropping them, and if we pull that off, we're going to do 41 damage per round, which is a nice increase. Let's go ahead and do point buy for rank 3. We're going to bring melee, resilience, and vigilance to a 6, and that's going to give us defenses of 16 for everything except for the mental stats. Ego and logic are still going to be a defense of 10. We are not going into a new power set. We need more stuff in martial arts and teleportation to really build out this build. And I'll tell you, I've gone through several iterations of this character, and it was far more complicated to build before I realized that Crushing Grip is inside of the martial arts power set. Crushing Grip is awesome. We make a melee attack against the resilience defense of an enemy that is grabbed, and then we can simply do damage to them, which is awesome. We are also going to take Always Ready. Always Ready is truly a marvelous power, no pun intended, and that is going to give us another reaction, but only for something that is inside of the martial arts power set. Crushing Grip is inside of the martial arts power set. So now we have 3 reactions, but one of them must be for crushing grip. This is going to be really important when we get to damage at the end of this section. Next, we're going to take Mighty 2 and Mighty 3, and that is going to give us now a 3 damage multiplier for any of our attacks that are for melee, which is awesome. We're also going to take Teleport Blind. Teleport Blind is our movement or our action and costs 15 points of focus, and now we can teleport to a place that we have not been to before and cannot currently see. There are some rules inside of Teleport Blind that discuss what would happen if you accidentally teleport inside of a solid object. It will do damage to you as you are shunted out, but this shouldn't happen too often. The trait we're going to take is Battle Ready, one of the best traits in the game, giving us an additional 30 points of focus. We have the max amount of focus that is possible now at this rank, and will continue to have so throughout the character's career. All right, so let's talk about combat at this rank. We need, for an ideal round of combat, to start next to an enemy. Action is grappling technique, 3 crushing grip reactions, then you use your movement to teleport together as high up as you can and drop them. If you pull all of that off, you're going to do 144 points of damage to a single target in a round of combat. But what if you don't start next to an enemy? Well, in that case, you have to use your movement to get up to an enemy, and then you use your reaction for teleport together. And as a result, you miss out on one of the crushing grip attacks, which would lower your average damage output by about 30 points. Let's do point buy for rank 4. We're going to bring melee, resilience, and vigilance to a 7, and finally bump one of our mental stats. I'm going to go with logic. You could certainly do ego. It doesn't really matter for the build which one you do. And that's going to bring our defenses to 17 for melee, agility, vigilance, and resilience, 12 for logic, and still a 10 for ego. We're going to use this rank to shore up a lot of the other aspects of the character. So nothing super exciting at this rank, but we're going to take Sturdy 2 and Sturdy 3, and this is going to give us now a 3 damage reduction, which is going to be important for us. We are also going to take Mighty 4 at this rank, so now we have maxed out the Mighty powers, which are going to add 4 to our damage multiplier for each of these melee attacks. And lastly, we're going to take Healing Factor. Healing Factor is so good, and I don't take it often enough, but this is going to allow us to heal our resilience every round of combat. And outside of combat, it continues to work, and so you will go into every fight at full health. Our trait for this rank is going to be Signature Attack for grappling technique. Everything we're doing relies on grappling the enemy. We have to actually succeed in the grapple. I might as well do something to take an edge on that attack. The way that we actually engage in combat is not going to change from this point forward, and it really only works well if the enemy can't fly, but provided that everything works out, you're going to do 208 points of damage in an average round of combat. Let's go ahead and do point buy for rank 5. We're going to bring melee, resilience, and vigilance to an 8 and logic to a 4. This is going to give us defenses of 18 for melee, agility, resilience, and vigilance, 10 for ego, 14 for logic. First power we're going to take is Combat Trickery. This is here so that we can guarantee, at least once a combat, that we will definitely get that grapple technique. We will do double damage with that, but really the key portion here is we have an edge on that particular roll, and we can force it to be a fantastic success if we just need to make sure it sticks. So this is good on every character, but it's pretty cool that I get to take it here. Next, we're going to take Do This All Day. Do This All Day allows you to use your action to heal health by expending focus at a 2-to-1 discount. I have seen this save people's lives before. It's a great power. Next, we're going to take Brace for Impact. Now, this is a reaction, and our reactions are pretty special to us, but it will allow you to use your reaction upon being hit to expend focus to not get hit. Basically, allow an attack to hit your focus rather than your health. It's basically what it allows you to do. Next, we're going to take Teleport Object. This costs 10 points of focus, and it allows us to teleport an object along with us, as far as our normal teleportation would allow. And this object can be a number of sizes larger than us, equal to our rank. So you can steal cars and ships at this point, which is pretty cool. Next, we're going to take Teleportal. I love Teleportal, and I wish I could have grabbed this earlier in the build, but I just had to prioritize other stuff. Honestly, if you wanted to slow down getting the sturdy powers to take Teleportal earlier, I think it might be worth it. It's really that good. Teleportal costs 15 points of focus, and it allows us to build a portal that has a connecting point in space, and anything can pass through either side, which is so much great utility for your whole party. The distance that you can do this is 10 times your rank in spaces away in combat, or 1,000 times your rank in spaces away outside of combat. So your ability to move your entire group plus any other stuff you might want from one place in the country to another is pretty open-ended, which is great. The trait we're going to take at this rank is Signature Attack for Crushing Grip. I just want to make sure that those land as well and do some extra damage. This is a very damage-oriented build, and all this stuff really adds up to making sure we always hit with these attacks. Nothing is changing for us in combat. We are still going to use action for grappling technique, 3 reactions for crushing grip, and our movement to teleport together and drop the enemy. And that's going to do, on average, 240 points of damage. Let's finish off the build at rank 6. We're going to bring melee, resilience, and vigilance to a 9, and logic to a 6. This is going to give us defenses of 19 for melee, agility, resilience, and vigilance, 10 for ego, and a 16 for logic. You certainly could have prioritized picking up the integrity power in order to shore up your ego defense at some point along the way. I certainly wouldn't blame you if you did that much earlier. We're going to start with Flight 2, which is only for outside of combat, but does mean our outside of combat flight speed is now 50 times our normal flight speed, which is pretty awesome. Next, we're going to take Defense Stance, a power I just don't like very much, but it is a prerequisite for some pretty cool stuff. Defense Stance means that we can use our action to go into a defensive stance, and all attacks against us, all close attacks against us, have trouble until the first one lands. That's pretty useless. I don't like it, but it does give us access to some really cool stuff. We are going to take Unflappable Poise. All close attacks against us now have trouble. It is a permanent power, not an action, to go into, which means that we just are shoring up the ability for people to not be able to hit us. If we are ever in our defense stance, close attacks have double trouble, but I never intend on using that. Next, we're going to take Regain Focus. Now, please note, Regain Focus is not like Healing Factor. This is an action to use. It does not automatically happen. So I probably won't use it in combat, but we are able to recover focus equal to our vigilance. I would use this outside of combat, which means that you will go into every combat encounter with full focus and full health, provided you have a few minutes of time to spare. And lastly, we're going to take Sturdy 4 for a 4 damage reduction. Attacks against us have trouble. We heal every round of combat. We can use actions and reactions to heal using focus, and we can heal our focus outside of combat. This is now a nearly unkillable character, which is pretty fun. I have no trait to recommend at this rank, so this is going to be taster's choice, whatever seems like it's fun for your build. We've got everything we want at the character at this rank. Combat, again, is unchanged for us. If we are able to pull everything off against an enemy, we're going to do 276 damage per round on average, and that's just a truckload of damage. And only 80 points of it, by the way, is the fall damage. So even if the enemy can fly, we're still able to do some cool stuff to them. All right, let's take a look at this character. This ended up being one of the hardest to build characters that I have ever done. The reason why is I always wanted to use teleportation to basically fling somebody into a space and have them fall. It was just a new and extra way to take damage that didn't eat into action economy. And I love the idea, I love the visual, I think it's a cool concept, but it was hard to pull off. The original way that I wanted to build this character was to have a teleportal and then grappling technique, crushing grip, and fling somebody through the portal. This would allow me to maximize fall damage earlier because I could have the other end of the teleportal at a slight cant, have them fly up, and then fall the distance of the teleportal plus the distance I can throw them. The way that I was able to throw somebody in the same turn as the grappling technique is with quick toss. Now, quick toss, sadly, is in the super strength power set, not martial arts, which means going into another power set. That delayed getting this combo online. But the real problem with quick toss was the type of check necessary. The real problem with quick toss, though, was that while it is a melee attack to do grappling technique, throwing somebody with quick toss is actually a ranged attack, which means I have to build up the agility of the character as well as the melee. You need both to pull that off. Well, that would have meant either dumping my hit points, which would not work, dumping my focus, which means I would run out of focus really fast, or going negative inside of a mental stat. And while I could have done that, it was just too complex. I also looked at teleport other. Now, teleport other allows you to grab somebody and teleport them into the air. But the problem with that is that it is an ego check to force the teleportation. And that meant building up the ego stat as well as the melee and taking the discipline powers, because then I would be able to guarantee that the check works. Again, that's building up another stat in the character and making it a far more complex build. I actually built, recorded, and uploaded a version of this character attempting to use teleportal, and then I had to take the whole thing down and start over again. So it's a little bit of a complex build, and I didn't love the idea that I needed to teleport with them. It forced me to take flying, not that flying's bad, but I was able to get it online. And I love the idea. Being able to just drop somebody from a great height is pretty cool. Now, the big problem, of course, is you're going to run into flying enemies more and more as the build goes on, but I'm not relying on the fall damage for this character to be effective. This character is a great melee combatant just in and of himself. It works great, and I have all of the teleportation powers that I really want to give amazing utility to the team as well as great combat. This character is able to function in most pillars of play. So I love the idea of teleporting. I love the idea of teleporting blind. I love the idea of teleporting objects. I can do so much with this character, and it's just fun to play with. And then you get to have this amazing moment of just dropping somebody from a couple hundred feet up. That's just fun. So obviously really good utility and a fun concept, but how does he stack up as a damage dealer? This character, if you average all the damage per round together, he's doing throughout his career 153.5 damage per round, just all average together. That places him currently third in my single target builds. He's just a little bit below the Fast Blade, and he is above the Wisecracker, who is doing focus damage. He's above Tsunami, he's above the Bodybuilder when the Bodybuilder is attacking one enemy. So sitting pretty good. Anyway, that is the build for the week. I hope that you enjoyed it. YouTube's literally made out of buttons. I hope you press some of them, and I'll see you next time. All right, peace.